Hello, how's it going? It's Shun. Today, I'm going to talk about the three people that have really inspired me. The three people that have had a huge influence on my life. And I'm going to talk in English in this entire video because, the AKN interview is coming up next month. So this is going to be a speaking practice for me and for you, a listening practice. Anyway, the three people I chose, they are all rock musicians. And some of you may know that I used to be an amateur guitarist, so it's natural for me to choose rock musicians. So the three musicians, George Harrison, Liam Gallagher, and Brian May, they are all legendary British rock musicians. So I want to start off with George Harrison. George Harrison is, of course, a member of the Beatles, the most famous band in the world. And when I became a second-year junior high school student, I got a new English teacher who would play an English song at the beginning of a class. And he handed out written lyrics and we all listened to a song. And he changed songs every month, but I clearly remember the first song he chose was Yesterday, the Beatles. And that was the first time I ever listened to the Beatles. Of course, I heard the Beatles before. I was able to recognize the song, but that was the first time I listened to the Beatles. And my dad happened to have one of the Beatles CDs called One, which includes very, very popular songs that reached number one in the US and the UK charts. And he gave it to me, and I was totally blown away by their music. It's full of energy, and I was like, wow, that's awesome. And that was the first time I got interested in music and English. And shortly after, I picked up a guitar and began practicing, and the first guitar solo I ever practiced was the one in the song called Can't Buy Me Love. Anyway, when I was a teenager, I liked John Lennon and Paul McCartney rather than George. But as I grew older, I began to appreciate the beauty and delicacy in George's voice and music. My favorite songs written by George include Something, While My Guitar Gently Weeps, Here Comes the Sun, Taxman, Old Brown Shoe. But I think he was always overshadowed by two of the greatest songwriters, John and Paul. So I think his musical talent really blossomed after the breakup of the Beatles. And I would say George was the one who had the best solo career after the breakup, not John, certainly not Paul. George released a solo album in 1970 called All Things Must Pass, and this is a masterpiece. I love it, and I would say this album is better than any other solo album released by other Beatles members. With this album, George proved himself to be one of the greatest songwriters too. I would sing his songs while playing guitar. That being said, the biggest influence on me was not music, actually. George was known to be a very spiritual person. He was really interested in Indian culture, music, and religion. I think Hinduism. Yeah. He inspired me to take up meditation or go on a vegetarian diet, although I'm not a vegetarian, but I'm a pescatarian. I've been a pescatarian for 5 years. And a pescatarian is someone who doesn't eat any meat, but eats seafood, eggs, and dairy products. So I'll explain why I became one later. It's not like I believe in any particular religion or God, but I consider myself to be a relatively spiritual person, not because I meditate or avoid meat, but because I always try to listen to my heart rather than the chatter inside my brain or other people's opinions. I don't really listen to other people's opinions, so my mom always says I'm really stubborn. Yeah, I admit that I'm really stubborn. But after all, it's my life. Why should I follow ordinary life paths? But I tend to think too much, thinking too much, not feeling enough, and that's when things start to go wrong for me. So I always try to listen to my heart instead of thinking too much. From my experience, just letting go is the best approach to find a way. When I'm doing nothing, like lying on the bed or sitting on a park bench and doing nothing, that's when I come up with a lot of creative ideas or solutions. That's when I come up with ideas for YouTube. Also, I try to appreciate everything around me. My family, my parents, my ancestors, my friends, my lovely guinea pigs, water, food, clothes, being able to go to university, and you, of course, my subscribers, my viewers. I really appreciate you and thank you for always watching my videos and supporting my channel. I'm happy to receive your thumbs up and nice comments, and I absolutely believe that what you've done is what you receive. So I always say to myself, just stay humble and do what you can do to help others. So I want to do whatever I can do to help you learn better, with this channel. So in a sense, George encouraged me to live more freely, and that's the biggest influence on me. Unfortunately, George passed away really early in his 50s, but I'm sure that his musical legacy will last forever. Okay, so the second person I'm going to talk about is Liam Gallagher. Liam is the lead singer of Oasis, a legendary British rock band, and they literally dominated the music scene in the 90s, and they were considered to be the biggest band since the Beatles. But they broke up in 2009, and this year they reunited and they're going to come to Japan to have a few concerts. I really wanted to go see them, but I couldn't get a ticket, unfortunately. The first time I heard the music of Oasis was kind of late, like when I was 25 or 26. Back then I worked at an English conversation school, and one day I was talking with one of the native teachers about music, and I told her that I really liked British rock music like the Beatles, Led Zeppelin, Queen and stuff. And she was like, "Oh, what about Oasis?" And I said, I only know the name, but I never heard of it actually. And she said, "Oh, I'm sure you like it. Just check it out." And okay. And later that night, I searched on YouTube and I heard a couple of songs. And when I heard a song called "Live Forever," lightning struck me. And that was almost like when I first heard the Beatles. Wow, this is great, And since then, I've been a huge fan of Oasis. Okay, back to Liam. Although he is really cool and charismatic and magnetic and considered to be one of the greatest rock singers ever, he is also notorious for his bad behavior and offensive remarks on other people, other musicians. And he, especially when he was younger, he would always kick up a fuss and pick a fight against paparazzi, for example. But he's really nice to his fans. And one of the things I really like about him is Liam is always Liam Gallagher, you know what I mean? He's always himself. He's always authentic, Even in front of a large audience, he's very confident, and he has 100% self-confidence. That's what really inspires me, because I get really nervous whenever I have to speak in front of people. YouTube is fine because I am watched by many people, but there's nobody around me at the moment, so that's okay. But in front of people, I get nervous, and whenever I get like this, I wish I was confident like Liam. I've been working on it, and I'm less nervous though, but not as confident as Liam, of course. Anyway, another thing that really inspired me was his comeback. He made a huge success in his early 20s, but after the breakup of Oasis in 2009, he literally hit rock bottom. He formed a new band, which didn't really take off, and he had a severe financial crisis due to divorce, and he was heavily criticized by the media. I can easily imagine all these things had an incredible mental pressure on him. But he was tough. He didn't give in. And in 2017, he came back to the music scene with his solo album called As You Were, which was a massive hit. But I prefer his second solo album called Why Me, Why Not? Because it has my favorite song called Once. And I love the lyrics, you know. And if you are in your 30s, 40s, or even older, I'm sure you can definitely relate to the song. And also, he said something really inspiring in his Vogue 73 Questions video. One of the things is, live in the now, don't worry about tomorrow. That is a great attitude toward life, you know. This is what you can call mindfulness. And I always say to myself, just focus on now and don't think about the past regrets or future concerns. And another thing is, when the interviewer asks him this question, looking back on your life, is there anything you would have done differently? And he says, no, never. Everything happens for a reason. And this also resonated with me, you know. It's very inspiring because, as I said, I consider myself to be a relatively spiritual person, so I love this way of thinking, you know. I'd like to think that good events, bad events, people I meet, they're all destined to come into my life. So I find this video really interesting, so I'll put the link in the description below, along with some of my favorite music videos. So if you're interested in it, please check it out. Liam has a very strong Mancunian accent, but I'm sure you can understand him with subtitles. Okay, the last person I'm going to talk about is Brian May. Brian is best known as the guitarist of Queen, but at the same time he's an astrophysicist, an animal welfare activist, and also he's a good singer, so he has multiple talents in various different fields. When he was a teenage boy, he made his iconic guitar by hand with a little help of his dad. And that alone is amazing, but even more surprising is he's been using the guitar for more than 60 years. All through his musical career. That's just incredible, right? I can never ever do that because I'm really clumsy with my hands. Queen came to Japan to have a few concerts last year. Of course, the vocal is not Freddie. Freddie passed away many years ago. It was a great show. I went to see one of their concerts at Kyocera Dome. I saw him playing his handmade guitar, and that was one of my dream come true moments, you know. And I almost cried when I heard him playing the guitar solo of Bohemian Rhapsody with the guitar. Anyway, as a student, he was really good at mathematics and physics. So he went to Imperial College London to study astrophysics while continuing his band. But eventually he decided to stop his studies and focus on music, which I think is one of the greatest decisions he's ever made. And in the 70s, Queen really took off and they became really popular all around the world. And Brian demonstrated his musical talent all through his career. He's definitely one of my favorite guitarists. Even though he stopped his studies in his 20s, he went back to college, finished his doctoral thesis, and got a PhD degree in astrophysics when he was around 60. That's just incredible, right? I truly respect his passion for academic pursuit. And I'll put the link of the video where he's talking about astronomy at Oxford University in the description below. Also, he's an animal welfare activist. He set up an organization called Save Me Trust, which was named after one of the Queen songs written by Brian. It focuses on protecting wild animals. I love his attitude toward animals. Personally, I'm also really passionate about animal welfare, and I'm really concerned about how animals are treated. I guess that's because I have guinea pigs, the animal with relatively low status, you know. I've been living with them for nearly 5 years, and I can't even tell you how much I love them. But guinea pigs are still used in animal testing, and in some parts of South America, they are raised for human to eat. I don't want to even think about that, but this is reality. Having the animal with relatively low status, that definitely had a huge impact on the way I see animals. And that's also one of the reasons why I became a pescatarian. Although I want to be a vegan who doesn't eat any animal-based food, it's difficult for me at the moment because we have few vegan options here in Japan, so it's difficult, but hopefully in the future. And Brian is a vegan, so yeah, hopefully in the future. Many animals, especially farm animals, are treated really badly. They are forced to live in really cramped and unsanitary conditions, and they are treated like nothing more than objects and eventually slaughtered. That's just incredibly cruel and inhumane, you know? I know not all livestock farms treat animals like that, but many animals are suffering. That's a fact. To me, farm animals like cows, pigs, chickens, they are no different from guinea pigs or other popular pets like dogs or cats. But I think many people, including me in the past, have this unconscious mental hierarchy where some animals are superior to other species. That's one of the reasons why few people care about the well-being of farm animals or testing animals. That being said, I used to eat a lot of meat and still eat fish or dairy products. And plus, our modern lifestyle is built on sacrifices of many animals. So no matter how hard I try, it's impossible to live without exploiting animals to some extent. So I have no intention whatsoever of criticizing people who eat meat, for example. But we can become more aware of where the meat or any of the food products you are eating come from. We can always make ethical choices, you know, like choosing meat from farms with ethical practices or the farms that really care about the well-being of animals. Making such choices, even from time to time, can make a huge difference in the long run, I believe. My ultimate life's goal is to reduce the number of animals that are suffering. I may not be able to do something big, like Brian, but I'll do whatever I can do to improve the well-being and status of animals. So thank you for listening to my long talk, and again, I really appreciate you. Thank you for always watching my videos and supporting my channel. So see you in the next video. Bye.